Welcome to The Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. I'm Ken Ray.
I'm Nicholas Raba.
And I'm Nicholas Tacek.
Here on The Checklist, we concern ourselves with the safety of your digital life, protecting your data from malware, from hacking, from phishing attacks. Good password choices, anti-malware software, smart browsing habits, these are the kind of digital defenses we cover. But today, we're moving into meat space, also known as the physical world. Your computer can't catch the same kind of virus you can catch, you ugly bag of mostly water, but it does face hazards, same as you. Prying eyes, grabbing hands, they grab all they can, you know. Your data faces physical dangers, but there are physical things that you can physically do to protect it. On today's checklist, 5 tips for physical data security. These include protecting yourself from shoulder surfing, using a screen protector, employing physical locks, staying secure when traveling, and finally, the importance of offsite backups. Now, I'm going to start with a question. Have you ever watched somebody enter their password or their PIN or other sensitive information? If your answer is yes, I'm not going to call you evil. I'm going to call you human. In one survey of IT professionals, more than 3/4 of respondents admitted that they have done just that, even if they didn't mean to. Now, while accidents do happen, shoulder surfing is a real security threat, which of course brings up the question, shoulder surfing, what is it, and why do I need to worry?
Well, shoulder surfing, it's not a fancy term for giving someone a ride on your back or shoulder.
No, that's called a piggyback ride. I know.
Mm-hmm. It's simply the act of peeking while someone is typing in their password or entering some other sensitive information. One typical instance of shoulder surfing might occur at an ATM. Someone could attempt to sneak a peek at your PIN for identity theft later on. And for those in the workplace and working on the go, it's a real concern. The obvious solution is just to make sure people aren't around you. They can't see what's on your screen or what you're typing. Even with the laptop, that's not always possible. For example, if you're in a crowded coffee shop or you're trying to work at a busy airport. When possible, avoid logging into personal or sensitive accounts while you're in the public. But that's not always an option. And when it's not, always make a good effort to find the quietest, most protected spot. Try to block the viewing angles of your screen and keyboard as much as possible. Mindfulness of one's environment, the people around you, that's always the best approach. Be aware that someone may be trying to glean your information or shoulder surf you. Always observe your surroundings and act accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of almost want to say if you're in public, don't get too comfortable, which is sort of terrible. But, you know, you sit in a coffee shop for hours, you're working for hours. I mean, it sort of becomes like your other living room. just be aware that you're not actually hanging in your own living room.
And if you're at a coffee shop, you know, maybe sit with your back against the wall, or so your laptop screen isn't, facing the line of customers waiting to get their coffee. Those are just kind of some of the situational awareness type things that are simple and easy habits to get into that do have a positive impact on your security.
Sure. And you can also, I mean, like if you're typing in your password on something, you can sort of sit uncomfortably for a moment. You can kind of hunker over your computer and hide the keystrokes, physically hide what you're punching on your computer that somebody else might be able to watch. I guess the follow-up question though would be, what if it's not about your password? I mean, you can't hunker over your computer the whole time you're working on it. What if your concern is the stuff on your screen? You say use a screen protector, and I'm thinking, well, that's good for keeping your screen clean or for making sure a screen doesn't get broken on an iOS device. What kind of screen protectors are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about a different type of screen protector. I guess this will kind of date me a little bit, but I remember back when I was first working in IT stuff that the big CRT monitors had the the kind of looked like sunglasses, a screen protector over it. It was almost like a screen in front of the screen. And that's the type we're talking about. Obviously, monitors have gotten a bit lighter and smaller these days, but the same principle applies. At the most basic level, this type of screen protector is something that fits over your screen and restricts the viewing angle. So you can only see what's on the screen if you're directly in front of it. So one of the big technological progress type things that's been made in recent years is with laptop screens, especially the viewing angle has gotten a lot wider. You can see the laptop screen from a wider angle, which is great if you're watching a movie with friends on your laptop, or need to show somebody a report for work. Not so great when you're trying to do some sensitive work that other people shouldn't be seeing. So in that case, one of these screen protector screen filters could work really well. It works basically to make it more difficult for those shoulder surfers or people who are sneaking a peek to kind of get a real good look at what you're doing. It's definitely situational. If you're using your laptop to watch a Netflix movie at the airport, it's not something you need to care about. If you're on that airplane and you need to do a company report that has some sensitive information in it, and there's you're on your way to the meeting, you have to do this report. Okay, that might be one example where it would be really appropriate to have one. Basically, the filter works by polarizing the light. So the people on either side of you won't see anything more than kind of a fuzzy blank space, but you'll still be able to see everything that's on your screen like normal. Also, depending on your office environment, if you have an open office plan or cubicles or something of the sort, it can be a good situation to have one. It kind of, when you take it in combination with some situational awareness to combat shoulder surfing, it's a more secure environment if you do need to be doing sensitive work out in public.
For some reason, I had it in my head, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that a privacy screen like this is something that sort of like is always on your screen. I mean, is it something that you can just sort of like set up and then take down, or is there sort of an adhesive thing? I mean, do you know physically how the individual ones work, or is it case by case?
I believe it's case by case. They used to just kind of snap on. The ones I had experience with would kind of snap onto screen. That was with like the older monitors. I honestly am not quite sure with the laptops these days. The ones I always saw were like physically snap on actual screen, not a sticky one. But technology advances, so I think it would be different, obviously, depending on if you're on a desktop or a portable.
I would think the one that is like that adheres would probably be for the most paranoid among us, or sadly for the people with no friends or who don't want to cook, because that was another example that I was thinking about, like people who follow recipes. I've done it before. Follow recipes from your laptop. You'd pretty much have to have your Mac sitting on your stove while you cook. And, that creates a whole bunch of other problems for your data, I would think. Speaking of which,
it does look like the new ones are, I just looked it up real quick. It does look like the new ones are sticky.
Really?
That are they stay on there.
Yeah. Wow. So you're making a pretty big decision at that point.
I'd assume they'd be kind of like those decals that you could peel off. Hopefully.
I would hope so. Yeah.
I was in my bank the other day, and that's something that all the computers there had. And the banker was working on the computer, and I'm trying to lean over to see what's going on. You having problems? Wasn't able to see a thing. And so the banker turned the monitor and then slid out the privacy sheet or whatever was blocking the screen so I could see what was going on. It was very limited viewing angle for the bank's computers over there.
Which sort of lets you know, I guess, how well these things work. I mean, if it's good enough to theoretically protect your financial information, then it, hopefully would be good enough for you while you sit in what's the middle seat in whatever row. I don't fly enough to remember off the top of my head which letter that would be. What's interesting is, so we're talking about physical security, and yet we're still talking about physically securing data. Of course, there's a lot to be said for physically securing the physical thing your data rides around in as well. Next item on the checklist, prevent theft of sensitive equipment with physical locks.
So, physical security, it's truly important. One of the big news items at CES this year wasn't really the hardware itself. It's that a piece of hardware, a prototype piece of hardware, was stolen from the show floor.
Oh, right. That 3-pane, what was it, like the 3-screen laptop?
Yep, from Razer. So they offered a reward for it, but I'm not sure if that laptop had any sort of lock on it or at what point that it got snagged, but that definitely made the news for CES this year. So laptops, tablets, all the other mobile devices, they're definitely enticing targets for thieves everywhere. Not only do they potentially represent a treasure trove of personal information and data, but there's the inherent value of that device too. For Mac users, there's a particular risk. After all, Apple products, they're visually distinctive and they're known for being valuable pieces of hardware. So how could you protect yourself against would-be thieves and resellers? You might ask yourself the same kind of question about something like a bicycle. And in fact, you should arrive at the same answer. Put a lock on your property. It helps keep it secure. For years, the MacBooks and MacBook Pros in Apple's portable line, they've come equipped with the security slot for a laptop lock. And a lot of people didn't even know what that slot was for on their computer. However, a lot of people, especially in businesses and schools, you would see those security slots used. Unfortunately, Apple's obsession with making each new model thinner and lighter, it comes with the cost. And that security slot is starting to disappear from the hardware devices these days. There's some locks that work without the use of security slots that have come on the market. We'll list a few of them on our website. These locks, they come in several forms. You could permanently fix a lock to your desk in your office, or a lock could be an item that you take with you when you travel. In either case, one end connects to your laptop, and a secure anchor is fixed to an object on the other side. So something like a desk or something really heavy that they won't walk away with both items. While you should never leave your laptop in an unattended place in public, a lock provides you with a degree of security and certainly some peace of mind. Most thieves won't want to go to the trouble required to break the lock to free your computer, so the presence alone acts as a deterrent. Should someone try to actually defeat the lock, chances are good you'll return to catch them in the act before they come close to success, if it's at your home or business or whatnot. While certainly not a perfect solution, physical locks, they're an essential tool for preventing theft.
One thing to add about locks, when I was actually looking up the information for this particular section, there are still desktop locks. So if you are at a work environment or school environment, you can still lock down your Mac desktops. For the laptops, with the security slot having disappeared, the options are a bit more limited. Apple themselves have kind of an interesting security setup at the Apple stores. They have an adhesive bolt kind of on the back of the laptop screen, and it isn't, I guess it's not really super strong adhesive, but the minute you remove it from the device, it sets off a loud alarm. Obviously, that's not something you're going to necessarily have when you're traveling. The main one I saw that is now out there for Mac laptops is adhesive that goes on the bottom of the laptop, and it kind of raises the profile off the desk. They say it's for airflow as well, and it makes the laptop run cooler, but it also looked a little odd. So it's definitely not... I guess it's not as nice of a solution as it used to be when we had the laptop security slots, because that was, you could put the lock in there and it wasn't actually adding something physical onto the laptop. If you're adding, a super sticky metal bar on the bottom. Good luck getting that off if you want to try and resell your laptop legitimately in the future. I think that is kind of a detriment to the thinner, lighter laptop. Is some of the stuff we're losing along the way is important for a lot of people.
I wonder, though, did we lose the security slot because of Apple's desire to have things be thinner and lighter, or was it lost because nobody knew about it? Because I'll be honest, I've been doing Apple stuff for over 11 years now, and the first I knew that they had a security slot was when we started today's episode.
It did. I did do the research on that. It turned out it was because it was too thin. When the lock was in the, I guess it was in like an up position, an unlocked position, it wouldn't actually. There wasn't enough room to fit it in, so it couldn't work. It wouldn't be able to close onto the laptop. I guess for a while there were some attempts at remedies there, but it didn't work out. So that old style security slot is no longer present on any of the new Mac portables.
The thing's so thin, though. You know what you could do? You could just drill a hole through it. Please don't actually do that. This is like that thing on YouTube. I'm not actually suggesting that you drill a hole through your Mac, because that would be bad, and I can't afford to buy you a new Mac if you do it.
We'll show you the perfect location. Just go to the website afterwards.
And you'll also end up with a headphone jack for your... Again, none of that's true. Please don't do it. Let's move on to another security. Well, this one I would imagine is a bit more difficult, because there are going to be times where you are going to have your computer out of your physical control. Talk to me about the additional physical security concerns faced by travelers.
Well, for travelers, device locks, screen filters, that can cover some of the most specific security issues that you'd likely face, but they don't cover everything. Physical security also means safeguarding the integrity of your system. And if you're traveling, as you just said, there are times when you're not going to be in control of your hardware. So there are some things you can do, though, that can help mitigate that risk. If you're planning to store your device in luggage, we would not recommend ship through, by the way. In a carry-in case, when you have to go through security at the airport, shut down your laptop completely. Sleep mode is nice and convenient, but especially if you don't have a password set for coming out of sleep mode, it's also giving anybody who picks up your laptop full access to your device and data while it's out of your possession. So completely shut it down. It's a better option. Basically, beyond unauthorized access, you're going to want that password just in general for theft, cases where it would be theft or you'd lose your laptop. Not just when you're handing it to the security guy. When you're actually traveling with your hardware, avoid baggage that draws attention to the fact that you have a computer whenever possible. So use something that looks like an average briefcase or travel bag. Less conspicuous bag is a less likely target for thieves. One of the things that some people do is they cover up the Apple logo with a sticker or a piece of tape just to make it a little less obvious that it's an Apple laptop. Not an essential step, obviously. It can reduce some of the unwanted attention, depending, I guess, on how garish that sticker is that you're putting on there. Another thing to consider, especially when you're going through the X-ray machine at the airport, it's kind of an issue of timing. You want to be ready to push your laptop through the X-ray machine at about the same time you're about to go through the actual fun X-ray security pat-down thing. Because if you push it through too early and the line is slow, your laptop's sitting on the other end for anybody to grab. Same thing in reverse. If you are expecting the guy behind you to push it through, that might not happen. I think last time I was at an airport, they made you push through all your luggage before you went through anyway. So I don't think that one's quite as much of an issue anymore. But you basically want to be minimizing the amount of time that it's out of your possession. So the way I usually do is I'll put my suitcase through first. It has my less important stuff. My laptop bag go through, with my shoes and watch or whatever next, right before I go through security. So when I come out the other end, I'm usually waiting for my laptop to reappear rather than my laptop's been sitting there for 5 minutes by itself.
You want to know a good trick? The good trick to make sure that your laptop is still there, put a bottle of water in your backpack before your laptop goes through, because then it gets stopped and holds things up for a little while. That'll save you a little bit of time.
Bad advice checklist.
That's such a bad idea. Yeah, this is really great. So the things to not do, we should make a separate checklist for today of the things that we said you should do that you actually shouldn't.
Yeah, that's one of them.
It seems like, don't drill a hole in your laptop. And please, for the love of Mike, don't put a bottle of water in your backpack as you go through security, because you and everybody else will be there for quite a while.
You're not going to make any friends.
Last item on the checklist today, it really wouldn't be a checklist if we didn't talk about the importance of backing up your data. A little bit of a twist this time, though. I think we've mentioned this before, actually, the importance of creating an offsite backup to protect your data.
Yeah, so sometimes even with the best planning and the most diligent habits, you could still fall victim to chance and circumstance. While you could hopefully avoid a situation where theft occurs, you should still have a contingency plan in place. Even if you think you keep your device safe from thieves, consider the thousands of iPhones and laptops accidentally left in taxi cabs every year. It's essential to create an offsite backup of your data. That is, one which is completely separate from your machine. A backup is something everybody should have, not just those planning to travel. But if you are traveling, you want to make sure that you have a up-to-date backup of it. And Apple makes it easy enough to create a backup copy of your Mac and all of its files with Time Machine application. There's other utilities available as well. Choose what'll make it easiest for you. You should back up the entire contents of the machine and be sure to do it securely. You don't want someone to access your stored files without permission. And store this backup disk in a safe place. And as I mentioned, back up often, update it often. While you may not often give it second thought, physical security is a crucial part of safeguarding your data and ensuring the continued stability of your digital life.
I can interject one thing real quick about the offsite backups. One good place to keep an offsite backup, depending, I guess, on the size of your external hard drive, would be getting a safe deposit box at your local bank branch. Or, if you have a close relative in town, you could store the hard drive over there if you know they're not going to be messing with your data. Just anything that's physically not just a different room in your house, but like a different house or a different location. Because if a flood or a tornado comes through, your computer's gonna be gone, so is your data. Hopefully, in a situation like that, if hopefully the data will be the worst of your worries. In which case, if you had an offsite backup somewhere else that didn't get hit by whatever natural disaster, it would be one less thing to worry about. So definitely make sure that the offsite portion of that is up there on your to-do list.
And if you are going to use a safe in your house, make sure you actually utilize those bolts that come with your safe. So if you're away, somebody doesn't just walk off with your whole safe, because it's more of a chance that they'd get caught trying to break into your safe in your house than just walking off with it, loading it in a truck, and then dealing with it later trying to get in.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think about something like an automated offsite backup? Because everything you're talking about as far as, if I'm keeping a hard drive in my safe, that means I actually have to take that hard drive out occasionally and do something. Or as you said, Mr. Toczek, if you've got like a safety deposit box, well, there's no way that's automatically going to update.
No, yeah. There are services available. One that's probably the easiest for listeners is just iCloud. We've talked before about how if you're storing sensitive data in the cloud, you need to understand it's somebody else's computer. iCloud backups are encrypted, so that data is protected in transfer and on Apple servers. So it's safe to do, and it's definitely one of those easy automated options. Depending on how many files you're backing up, you might have to purchase some additional storage space from Apple, however, which is a small monthly fee, but would be well worth it in the event that something happens and you need that data offsite.
Let's call this one a bonus item, something I know that we talked about hitting earlier, but we sort of seem to have skated past it. So this will be item number 6 on the 5-item checklist. What about a biometric something or other? Nothing is, well, I assume anyway, nothing as advanced as, say, a retina scan or something like that. But I mean, this could almost fit in the physical lock section, I would think. Talk to me about the different biometric solutions out there, especially ones that are not built into whatever machine you happen to be using.
Well, you took it away from me. The obvious one is the new MacBook Pros have the built-in Touch ID. Mm-hmm. However, Mac OS and OS X before it have built-in support for biometrics as part of the authentication mechanism. So if you have a fingerprint scanner or an iris scanner, various biometrics that are on the market, they plug into your computer, your laptop, and they kind of take the place of typing in your password. The operating system's all set up for that, so it can kind of act as a replacement way of logging in and authenticating your identity. Obviously, most of those on the market are marketed towards larger businesses, corporations. I'm not quite sure. I know there are some available, more for, I guess, a smaller business or home user type situation, but it's definitely not as common that you see them marketed that way. But the support is built into the operating system, so as long as it's compatible with Mac OS, it should be pretty seamless as a replacement. And that's just in terms of physically accessing the data on the computer. If you don't have a lock on your machine, the person's just going to walk off with the laptop and the biometric reader. So there's still, you can't just count on that for stopping theft of the device.
But at least it would theoretically keep your data safe.
Your data safe.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I mean, we've spent so much time talking about ways to keep your data safe. We're this far in. I think before a couple of weeks ago, I said, "Hey, what about the actual real world stuff?" Just like every other show that we've done before, we're not looking to make you more paranoid. We're looking to make you more, prepared, I guess. I mean, whether you're talking about, filters or locks or some other physical technique, there are lots of ways to ensure that your devices remain in your possession, which, again, ultimately is just about making sure that your data stays safe, both online and in what we'll call the real world. Don't forget, you can see this list and check show notes for today's show and for past shows and eventually for future shows, once we get into the future. Show notes are available on the show's site, securemac.com/checklist. That is securemac.com/checklist. I'm curious if you have a real-world security tip of your own, something that you do that you think might be helpful to other listeners, or maybe you have a question that you'd like to ask on this topic or any other topic, or maybe a topic you'd like to hear us hit. We do have an email address. It is checklist@securemac.com. That address again is checklist@securemac.com. And if you can't remember that, please remember this. You are listening to The Checklist by Secure Mac. And we'll talk to you next week.